There's almost nothing interesting about why I do not like Turtle WoW. It's all straightforward. It drifts too far away from the original spirit of vanilla. We'll get into the details in a bit, but first I want to talk about how weird this whole situation is. Weird because a few months ago, YouTube was filled with Turtle WoW videos. The hype was huge, but I couldn't find a single video talking about the things I'm going to mention. Not one. That's actually the reason why I wanted to play on this server so bad, because everyone was praising it non-stop. I figured that no matter what changes they made, it had to be good if everyone was hyping it so hard. So I was super hyped. Then I played it. That experience reminded me why the current classic WoW YouTube scene feels so hollow. Most creators fall into one of two camps. They either cover news non-stop, reacting to the latest patch, the latest announcement, or the latest Blizzard screw-up. Or they endlessly repeat the same talking points you've already heard before. So when the hype wave was shifted towards Turtle WoW, the same thing happened again. The same praise, the same arguments echoed across dozens of videos. And I made the mistake of taking that repetition as proof that the server must actually be that freaking good. It's like a hive mind, I swear. Now, I'm not saying Turtle WoW is super bad, it's not. There are genuinely cool things in there. Some small and quite obvious, like warriors being able to finally use Thunderclap in more stances, and some much bigger ones, like some cool new zones, dungeon extensions, or even stuff like the in-game radio, which is surprisingly fun to listen to, and the old school music videos that the community makes, and a lot of things that are in between. But goddamn does Turtle WoW have problems as well. Let's start with the things that are no doubt annoying, but at the same time I do not fault them that much because they are to be expected, at least to a certain degree. I would be lying if I said that I was always happy with Turtle WoW from a technical standpoint. Once the game is actually running, there aren't any game-breaking bugs, but there are plenty of small, annoying ones scattered everywhere. Sometimes you cannot loot dead enemies for a few seconds, or keybinds randomly stop working. None of this is catastrophic, but it adds up over time. That said, this is a free private server. I can't really blame them for these issues. They don't have Blizzard resources or experience or manpower to polish every single edge, and expecting that would be unfair. But notice that I mentioned once the game is running, because getting this game to run in the first place was genuinely painful, at least for me. I had to deal with 3 separate errors before I could even start playing on my PC, and 2 of them showed up again on my laptop as well. These are the kind of problems that make most people quit immediately. If I didn't believe the game was something super special, I wouldn't have bothered fixing them. What's worse is that these aren't new problems. Every error I ran into had forum threads about it going back as 4 years. Add-ons are another headache. You cannot use CurseForge, so no one-click installs. A decent number of add-ons still work on Turtle WoW, but getting them running is more annoying, and they are far less stable as well. Because of that, I stuck to the bare essentials. Their version of Questy, Bagnon, and a couple of others. Now, if this was the bulk of my criticism, I honestly wouldn't care that much, because this is the price you always pay when you're playing on a private server. You deal with friction, but you also don't pay a monthly fee, so it evens out. The real problem is the game itself, because all the new content, the zones, the dungeons, the ideas, mean nothing if you break the integrity of the game in the process. If you mess with the things that made vanilla special in the first place, then it doesn't matter how much you add or how good it is on the surface. At that point, it stops feeling like a Classic Plus experience at all. First, let's talk about the biggest one, leveling. I want you to imagine this for a second. Imagine Blizzard finally announces Classic Plus, and alongside, they reveal the following leveling changes. And ask yourself honestly, how would you react and how Classic fans in general would react. So, on PvP realms, all mobs give you double XP at all times. There are glyphs that boost XP even further. Rested XP might as well be a permanent buff because of the new survival profession. You can craft tents, and sitting under one gives you rested XP so fast that in under 10 minutes you are fully rested. Something that used to take days of being logged off in vanilla. You can group with both Horde and Alliance players, making dungeon groups easier and faster to form. Green quests give you full XP. Most zones have extra quests, making questing routes even more efficient. There are also entirely new zones, meaning routes can be optimized even further. Every quest hub has rentable mounts you can use for 5 minutes, speeding up travel to objectives even more. You get a mount at level 18. It's slower than a normal mount, sure, but it's still faster than walking and it scales up as you level. You can buy cash shop items that summon personal vendors for food, water, ammo and regions. Your bank, a mailbox, an auction house, repair bots, faster Hearthstone cooldowns, a talent swap device, and 26 slot bags, so you basically never need to return to a major city except to train spells. There are new flight paths to speed up world travel even more. And on top of all of this, from time to time there are XP boosting events. Some of these changes cause problems beyond just leveling speed, but let's stay focused on that for now. You can argue whether vanilla leveling is too slow or too fast. I'm not saying vanilla was perfect or untouchable, that's the whole point of wanting Classic Plus, to improve things, but I am sure we all agree on one thing. Leveling is a massive part of vanilla WoW, a core pillar, the biggest one. Even without explaining why all these changes are bad, the sheer idea of completely gutting such a huge part of the game you claim to respect the spirit of is insane. People online are saying that they hit level 40 on PvP realms while still wearing grey and white items because they leveled so fast they didn't even have time to replace them. If you just make sure to always have rested XP and make use of the new quests and new zones to make your route more efficient, I can guarantee you'll more than double your leveling speed compared to original vanilla, with basically zero effort. And if you really optimize, play on a PvP realm, full buffs, planned routes, and also buy all the cash shop items, I genuinely think leveling 5 times faster than vanilla is quite possible. That's not a bit faster, that's insane. You know how every single video about why vanilla World of Warcraft was great spends like 75% of its runtime talking about leveling, about how it felt like a journey, how the slower pace gave meaning to loot, to friendships, to discoveries, to new spells and everything. Turtle WoW completely nukes that, and sure, you can always choose not to use these systems, but that argument is so dumb. I'm not a competitive MMO player anymore, but deliberately choosing a slower, more inconvenient path, knowing I will constantly be behind everyone else, while also knowing this directly contradicts the spirit of the game I thought we all wanted refined, not destroyed, is not fun. This is by far the biggest reason I do not like Turtle WoW. When I saw YouTubers endlessly praising it, I was most excited to see an improvement to the leveling experience. One that keeps what made it so special, but smooths out the rough edges. The endgame stuff was interesting too, I'm not saying no, but leveling has always been the heart of Classic. Everyone knows that. I personally only play hardcore at the moment, from level 1 all the way to doing my best not to die in raids. Why would I want any of that to be 2 to 6 times faster? On the spectrum between vanilla and retail, Turtle WoW's leveling sits way closer to retail than to classic, and for something that claims to honor vanilla spirit, that's insane. Leveling faster also messes with questing. I leveled through Westfall so quickly that I had nothing left to do in Loch Modan, and even in Redridge, I had a bunch of green and grey quests. I was only a few bars away from level 22 when I left Westfall. I cleared the dead mines once, and after turning in all the quests, I was almost level 24. At that point, I would normally finish the last elite quests in Redridge and get ready to move to Duskwood, but this time I never set foot there. Keep in mind, this is a hardcore warrior we're talking about. I'm not even playing on a PvP realm where leveling would have been much faster. All I did was just keep the rested XP buff on me. You either out-level a bunch of quests in other zones, or you leave your current zone just to experience the next one from the start. The game is also pay to win. Not in the most disgusting, cartoonishly evil way, but yes, it 100% is pay to win. I already have a full video breaking this down, so this is the short version. Imagine two characters, same class, same race, same spec. They start playing at the exact same time, both fully use everything that's free on the server. Tents, early mounts, new zones, all of it. Now add one difference. One of the characters also buys 4 26 slot bags, a portable mailbox, the auctioneer, bank access, a repair bot, food, water, ammo vendors, and the Hearthstone cooldown reducer, and actually uses them efficiently. That player will hit level 60 faster, not because they're better, but because they simply do not have to go back to major cities even half as often. And they'll also arrive with more gold as well. Is that difference massive once they reach 60? Probably not. My educated guess is maybe around 10 hours saved overall, maybe a bit more, and something like 50 extra gold. Annoying that you can buy that advantage with real money, sure, but on its own, it's not something I would lose my mind over. The problem is that the game doesn't end once you hit 60, does it? Both players still need to farm gold, run dungeons, raid, PvP, level professions, and more. And from that point on, the gap keeps growing. Every single day, the player who spent money saves a bit more time and earns a bit more gold simply by being more efficient. So how big is that gap after 1 week at 60? How about a month? How about a year? While no one can put exact numbers on it, that gap doesn't stay static, it compounds over time, especially once endgame farming, consumables, and long-term progression enters the picture. The more you play, the bigger the gap becomes. And to be clear, this isn't retail levels of pay to win. It's not WoW tokens, paid boosts, or illegal boosting services dragging you through all the content. It's not that bad, but it's also not nothing. And it's not nothing in a game that claims to respect the spirit of vanilla. Some of the content they added is also just boring, lame, bland. I've talked about this before, but I genuinely do not find things like the Karazhan Crypts, Mount Hyjal, Gilneas, and similar additions even remotely intriguing. These are places we've either already seen in later expansions, seen on other private servers, or known about forever. And that's what makes it so disappointing. You are basically God. You can invent any locations, any stories, anything you want, and somehow 75% of what you come up with is recycled Warcraft trivia. No new ideas, no truly new concepts. Just, hey, remember this place from later?
Remember
Mount Hyjal,
Member? Hey, member!
Grimbatol,
Oh, I remember!
Karazhan Crypts.
I have shown some of my own ideas for Classic Plus content before. They aren't perfect, but I think they are quite decent, even though they could be improved a lot. I'm confident I could improve them a lot if I spent months or years working on them full time. But I am not. The Turtle WoW team is. These are people who've spent hundreds, maybe thousands of hours thinking and working on this server. And after all that time, a lot of the additions are things like Mount Hyjal. Wow, incredible, surprising. Who could have possibly predicted that one? And to be fair, Blizzard will probably do the exact same thing, and it's gonna be even worse there because their resources are much bigger. I've said it before, and you can quote me on this. Most of the new dungeons, zones, raids, and features we're gonna get in Classic Plus will be stuff like Mount Hyjal, the Stormwind Vaults, Uldum, Karazhan Crypts, the Ashara Crater Battleground, stuff that will make me go, oh, it's this one again. In other words, things we've already been expecting. And that kills the sense of adventure, it kills exploration for anyone who isn't completely new to Warcraft. None of this feels mysterious or exciting, it just feels like checking off a list of unfinished content we've been talking about for 15 years now. Classic didn't feel special because we knew what was around every corner. It felt special because we didn't, and when your new content relies this heavily on nostalgia and leftovers, you lose the very thing you're trying to preserve. And for my last point, I saved the most subjective one. There is something I've always loved about vanilla World of Warcraft, and something I really hope survives in Classic Plus. The fact that some places just exist without a clear purpose for the player. Think about most of Ashara or Deadwind Pass. These zones are there, but they don't care about you. They're not built around your quest log. And because of that, they have this eerie, almost unsettling vibe that I absolutely love. It's immersive, it makes the world feel real. Not every location and every mob should exist purely to serve your progression. The world shouldn't revolve entirely around you. Now, I know these areas weren't left like that because Blizzard had this vision. A lot of it came down to time constraints. And I'm not saying Classic Plus shouldn't add anything to them. What I'm saying is this: I hope they keep this idea alive, that from time to time, parts of the world are allowed to exist without caring about the player at all. Turtle WoW doesn't do that. There's new content everywhere, especially in places that were once quiet and indifferent. And a perfect example is the grave robbers in the Duskwood graveyard. In vanilla, there is no quest for them. They're just there. They're grave robbers robbing graves. No one sends you to deal with them. They aren't part of some experience designed for you. You can interact with them if you want, but the game doesn't point at them ever. And I always loved that. But once you learn about who is buried around that area and the lore of the zone, it makes sense that these people chose that graveyard to dig, which is a super nice payoff for paying attention to the lore of the game. Turtle WoW adds a quest here. They saw some cool unused NPCs and did the most obvious thing possible. They turned them into player-facing content. And I know this sounds counterintuitive, but I genuinely think it would have been better if they would have been left alone. Sometimes the game letting you form your own interpretation of something is a good thing. Not everything needs to be explained. Not everything needs a quest or an objective. A world feels more alive when some things simply are, when their meaning isn't front-loaded through quests or exposition, but left for the player to notice or to completely ignore. And that's something vanilla did accidentally but beautifully. Ah, yes, also the fact that you can form guilds, group up, do dungeons, chat, and basically play the game cross-faction is very obviously against the original spirit of vanilla. The Horde versus Alliance divide was one of the coolest parts of the game. So many MMOs tried to do something similar before WoW, and plenty tried after, but very few actually pulled it off. That faction divide gave WoW something genuinely unique, something that helped it stand out even more. They probably introduced cross-faction systems because of low player numbers at some point, or just to be safe if people start leaving. I get the reasoning, but that doesn't change the fact that this still sucks, and that it's another change that goes directly against the spirit of vanilla at a fundamental level. Anyway guys, this was the video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and if you liked it, consider liking and subscribing, maybe even share it with your friends. Until next time, peace.